Iranian ballistic missiles have slammed into Gulf Arab states, including the United Arab Emirates. And right now, Dubai International Airport, the single busiest international transit hub on the planet, handling close to 100 million passengers a year, is completely shut down. Abu Dhabi residents are being told to shelter in place. Fires are burning near the Palm Islands. And the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway carrying roughly 20% of the world's oil supply every single day, is under direct threat from Iran's Revolutionary Guard, who are broadcasting warnings on open VHF maritime frequencies that no vessel is permitted to transit. This is no longer a contained Israeli and Iranian exchange. This is blown wide open into the Persian Gulf. There is a port called Fujairah that most of you have never heard of, and right now it sits at the center of everything. Dubai's airports just went dark, and Iran is now threatening to choke the Strait of Hormuz shut, which may end up mattering more than every missile in the sky. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and share this with everyone you know. We are giving you the real breakdown while this is still unfolding. Here is what triggered this. On February 28, 2026, the United States and Israel launched a coordinated strike package against Iran. Reuters confirmed the operation targeted Iranian nuclear infrastructure and missile production sites. Israeli officials stated the strikes had been in preparation for months, fully synchronized with Washington. This was not a snap decision. This was a calculated, premeditated military operation designed to degrade Iran's ability to build nuclear weapons and to cripple its ballistic missile manufacturing pipeline. And the diplomatic backdrop makes it even more telling. 2 days before the strikes, U.S. and Iranian teams held talks in Geneva that ended without a deal, with technical discussions planned for Vienna the following week. Mediators said technical discussions were supposed to resume in Vienna the following week. They never got the chance. 1 day before the strikes, financial markets in the UAE were already twitching with nervous selling. Barclays issued a warning that any real disruption to Gulf energy flows could push Brent crude toward $80 a barrel, so the sequence is devastating in its clarity. Diplomacy stalls, military buildup accelerates, Washington and Tel Aviv pull the trigger, and then Tehran fires back, not just toward Israel, but across the entire Gulf. That is not retaliation against a single adversary. That is a message to every American partner in the region. We need to talk about what happened inside the UAE itself, because this is where the crisis stopped being abstract and became physical. The UAE Ministry of Defense, through the state news agency WAM, confirmed the country was subjected to what they called a blatant attack involving Iranian ballistic missiles. UAE air defense systems engaged and intercepted a number of those incoming weapons. The UAE operates a layered missile shield that includes American-made THAAD batteries, among the most capable terminal phase interceptors on Earth, designed to knock down short and medium-range ballistic threats at altitude. They also field Patriot PAC-3 systems covering lower-tier defense. But interception does not mean zero consequences. Falling debris struck a residential area. One civilian was killed. WAM initially identified the victim as an Asian national. The UAE Foreign Ministry later confirmed he was a Pakistani citizen. Consider what that means for a country that has built its entire global brand on safety, stability, and insulation from regional chaos. In Abu Dhabi, Reuters correspondents on the ground heard loud booms rolling across the capital. Smoke was visible offshore. Residents received emergency phone alerts instructing them to move to the nearest secure building and stay away from windows. More explosions were heard near Al Dhafra and the Bateen district. Fighter jets were spotted circling over Yas Island. Al Dhafra Air Base is critical here. It is one of the most important American surveillance and air operations hubs in the entire Middle East, hosting advanced reconnaissance platforms including high-altitude RQ-4 Global Hawk drones, and serving as a forward node for U.S. Central Command posture across the Gulf. Iran almost certainly had that facility on its target list, and booms in that vicinity are not random noise. That is not a stray explosion. That is a direct message to the Pentagon. Most people think Dubai escaped the worst of it because no landmark building was flattened. In reality, the city was shaken to its core. Reuters reported 5 large explosions across Dubai late in the afternoon. On the Palm Islands, a fire erupted near a hotel. Thick plumes of smoke were visible for miles. Now, Reuters does not confirm that Iran scored a direct precision hit on a specific named structure. What is confirmed is that blasts were heard, fire broke out, and fear spread through one of the most image-conscious cities on Earth. Iran has a diverse ballistic arsenal capable of reaching every corner of the Gulf. Its Shahab 3 missiles carry a range exceeding 1,300 kilometers. The newer EMAD variant adds a maneuverable re-entry vehicle, meaning it can adjust its flight path during the terminal phase to evade interceptors. Its K-Bar Shekhan solid-fuel medium-range missile can travel approximately 1,400 kilometers and is designed to be launched rapidly from mobile platforms, making it extremely difficult to preempt. Share this with everyone you know, because Iran just proved it can reach into the commercial heart of the Gulf and make the world's most globalized cities feel like frontline territory. And then came the airport shutdown that turned a military crisis into a global logistics emergency. Dubai airports announced all flight operations at DXB and DWC were suspended until further notice. Emirates and Fly Dubai temporarily halted operations. Fly Dubai followed immediately. Etihad suspended all departures from Abu Dhabi until 10:00 GMT on Sunday. Sit with that for a moment. DXB is not some regional airport. It is the connective tissue of global east to west air travel. Tens of millions of transit passengers flow through it every year, connecting Europe to Asia, Africa to the Americas, the Indian subcontinent to everywhere. When DXB goes dark, flight schedules cascade and collapse across 4 continents. Airlines scramble to reroute through already congested alternatives like Istanbul and Doha. Business travelers are stranded. Cargo shipments stall. Iran did not need to level a terminal. Shutting down operations for even 24 hours achieved a strategic effect that rivals a direct strike. That is not collateral damage. That is economic warfare by proxy. And here is what nobody is focusing on yet. We will come back to this, because it is the deepest layer of this entire crisis, the maritime dimension. Iran's Revolutionary Guards began broadcasting VHF warnings on open shipping channels, declaring that no vessel is allowed to pass the Strait of Hormuz. UK maritime officials said the VHF warnings carry no legal authority, but advised vessels to transit with extreme caution. That legal distinction is irrelevant when you are a tanker captain sitting on 300,000 tons of crude oil. The Strait of Hormuz is barely 21 nautical miles wide at its narrowest point. Shipping lanes compress into 2 channels, each just 2 miles across, separated by a buffer zone. At those margins, a single mine, a single fast attack boat, or a single anti-ship missile changes everything. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy operates hundreds of small fast attack craft and has stockpiled Chinese-made C-802 anti-ship cruise missiles alongside its own domestically produced Iran fields. Chinese-origin anti-ship cruise missiles and Iranian-made variants, such as Noor, which is widely assessed as being based on the C-802 family. Those weapons can be launched from shore, from islands, or from small boats, and they can cripple a supertanker. Multiple tanker owners, major energy firms, and commodity traders have already suspended shipments through the strait. Satellite tracking shows vessels stacking up near Fujairah, the UAE's critical energy and shipping outlet on the Gulf of Oman side. Fujairah sits just outside the narrowest choke point of Hormuz. It is the place ships go when they cannot go through. It is also home to one of the largest bunkering ports in the world, and a key oil storage and pipeline terminus connecting Abu Dhabi's production to open ocean export routes bypassing Hormuz entirely. Consider the scale of what is being threatened. Roughly 20% of the world's crude oil transits Hormuz every single day. That translates to somewhere around 17 to 20 million barrels daily. Major volumes of Qatari liquefied natural gas pass through the same bottleneck. Qatar is the world's largest LNG exporter, and virtually all of its seaborne cargoes must navigate this strait. 14 LNG tankers had already shown signs of slowing, stopping, or reversing course, according to shipping data. That is not a minor disruption. That is the opening phase of a potential energy supply crisis affecting every industrialized economy on the planet. Most people think this story is about missiles over Dubai. In reality, the real strategic weapon Iran is deploying is fear on the water. Missiles in the sky are dramatic. Tankers frozen at anchor outside Fujairah are devastating. Then the situation expanded beyond the UAE entirely, and this is where the regional picture gets truly alarming. Iran did not limit its retaliation to Emirati targets. Kuwait, Qatar, and Bahrain all reported missile interceptions or attacks on their territory. Bahrain confirmed that a service center connected connected to the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet was struck. The Fifth Fleet, headquartered in Manama, is the backbone of American naval power projection across the Gulf, the Arabian Sea, and the Western Indian Ocean. It oversees carrier strike group operations, mine countermeasures, and maritime security patrols across some of the most contested waterways on Earth. An Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer carries 96 vertical launch system cells capable of firing Standard Missile-3s for ballistic missile defense and Tomahawk cruise missiles for land attack. Those ships are the Gulf's shield, and right now, the bases supporting them are under fire. Share this with everyone you know, because in a single afternoon, Iran demonstrated the ability to simultaneously threaten American military infrastructure in 4 separate Gulf nations while choking the world's most critical energy corridor. Gulf cities that market themselves as ultra-modern, hyper-secure sanctuaries suddenly had missile trails in their skies, air raid warnings echoing through their streets, and civilians sheltering behind concrete walls. The geography of this crisis widened in a matter of hours, from Tehran to Gulf capitals, from airspace to airports, from missile defense corridors to maritime choke points. And the civilian impact inside Dubai tells you everything about how quickly a modern, hyper-connected city can wobble under pressure. Reuters described the situation as a stark departure from daily life in Gulf capitals. Grocery delivery apps in Dubai showed severe delays. Reports emerged of residents ordering supplies in bulk. One supermarket worker told reporters that bottled water was already running out on the shelves. The UAE government moved quickly to reassure the public, stating that supplies remained plentiful and strategic reserves were robust. But the psychology had already shifted. Even a few hours of panic buying in a city like Dubai, where roughly 90% of the population are expatriates who can leave at any time, sends a signal that reverberates globally. Dubai is not just a city, it is a brand. It is a promise of frictionless commerce, seamless logistics, and total insulation from the messiness of the Middle East. That promise cracked open on February 28th. Towards the end here, look at why the UAE's political response reveals the impossible position Abu Dhabi now finds itself trapped in. The UAE's official reaction operated on 2 simultaneous tracks. On the first track, outright fury. The foreign ministry declared the strikes a flagrant violation of sovereignty. Officials stated the UAE retains the full and legitimate right to respond, and insisted they will not tolerate any compromise on national security. On the second track, diplomacy. The same statement warned against using regional states as arenas for settling disputes between larger powers. It stressed the threat to global economic stability and energy security. The UAE called for restraint and de-escalation. That dual posture is not contradictory. It is survival. The UAE needs Washington's security umbrella. It also cannot afford to become the ground on which Washington and Tehran fight their war. The timing makes this tension razor sharp. Just one day before the missiles flew, Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed, the UAE's foreign minister, had just wrapped up a visit to Washington emphasizing the strategic partnership with the United States while simultaneously pushing for diplomatic off-ramps. That visit now looks like it belonged to a completely different world. The core tension for Abu Dhabi is existential. The UAE is simultaneously America's most important Gulf partner outside Saudi Arabia, the region's commercial and aviation gateway, and now an exposed frontline node in a spiraling U.S. and Iran confrontation. Those 3 identities cannot coexist when missiles are falling on your soil. Here is the rapid-fire breakdown of where we stand right now. U.S. and Israeli strikes hit Iran. February 28th. Iran retaliates with ballistic missiles across the Gulf. UAE air defenses engage with THAAD and Patriot systems. Multiple warheads intercepted. 1 civilian killed by falling debris. Abu Dhabi under shelter orders. Fighter jets over Yas Island. Booms near Al Dhafra airbase. 5 large blasts across Dubai. Fire on the Palm Islands. DXB and DWC shut down completely. Emirates fleet grounded. Over 250 aircraft parked. Fly Dubai grounded. Etihad suspended. Close to 100 million annual passengers affected. IRGC broadcasting no transit orders across Hormuz. Tankers piling up at Fujairah anchorage. 14 LNG carriers slowing or turning back. 20% of global crude under direct threat. 17 to 20 million barrels a day in jeopardy. Bahrain Fifth Fleet facility struck. Kuwait and Qatar reporting interceptions. Grocery panic spreading in Dubai. Water shortages at retail level. Brent crude volatility spiking. UAE condemning Iran while calling for restraint. Abu Dhabi trapped between alliance loyalty and sovereign exposure. One thing is absolutely certain: Iran has fundamentally redrawn the boundaries of this conflict. The Gulf is no longer the safe economic backdrop to someone else's war. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Fujairah, and the Strait of Hormuz are now active pressure points in a military confrontation that touches global energy, global aviation, and global commerce simultaneously. Iran's strategy is not merely military. It is psychological, economic, and geographic all at once. Missiles in the air, fear in the streets, and paralysis on the water. The coming days will determine whether this escalation spirals into a sustained Gulf-wide crisis with Hormuz blockaded and oil markets in freefall, or whether back channels and deterrence pull both sides back from a catastrophe that neither Washington nor Tehran can truly afford. We will see what unfolds. Stay tuned.